Okay, and we are live and broadcasting, hopefully. And we will wait our customary couple minutes here while we wait for see who's on attendees joining us. So we have a bumper crop to here tonight. I think this is the biggest. We have a bumper crop. We have the biggest turnout that we've had since
turkey dinner.
well, and maybe that's what we're getting ready for.
Yep.
I don't know why all of a sudden I thought when I downloaded the address again that it would. And when I downloaded the program again, that it would stop saying I had the wrong address, but it's still saying that.
Maybe you all want to email Ed another invite here. And you might want to put yourself on mute for a moment here.
Ed had trouble getting on with his iPad, so he's going to his computer. It'll
Yeah,
take another 6 seconds.
Record. 17th. All right, start over again. Okay, I think I'll go ahead and call the November 17th, 2022 monthly regular meeting of the Needham Housing Authority Board of Commissioners and the High Rock Homes Board. And I will call the roll. Eleanor Evans.
Eleanor Evans, present.
Ed Scheidler.
Ed Scheidler present.
Lee Kirk.
Penny Kirk present.
S. Bennett. And you're on mute, but I can read your lips. Janice Bennett is present.
Janice Bennett is present. Sorry.
Reg Foster is present. So I just wanted to let everybody know this meeting is being recorded and is a hybrid meeting with both board members, both remote and present here tonight. And so we will be doing all our voting by roll call, and we are meeting under Governor Baker's emergency order of a couple, 3 years ago that is still active through March 23rd, 2023, that allows us to conduct public meetings in this fashion. And I also note for the record that the notice of this meeting was posted with the clerk of the town of Needham on November 10th, 2022. And so we're ready to go. I do not have any last minute announcements other than there are a couple things that came in after the notice was posted. One of them is a formula funding number 8 for that we need to vote on. I also heard from Commissioner Kirk, there's some updates on activities to raise grants. And my proposal to everybody is we'll just work that into the agenda as we go along when we get to the appropriate place here. So that then brings us to resident and community input. And I would like to call on the Cooksbridge Tenants Association. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay, we just had a general meeting, a week or so ago, and it was discussed, we had 3 residents go to the Mass Union one-day convention, and they went to 2 workshops. Cindy Sabah brought information back about the federal rent calculations that they discussed there. Unfortunately, she couldn't stay for the whole thing. And Janice Bennett and Carol Briggs went to the workshop for reasonable accommodations. And unfortunately, we just didn't have enough, you know, they didn't have time to go to like the grievance process workshop. There were quite a few workshops, so. And that was it. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, great. Any other resident input tonight?
I want
Go
to make
ahead,
a
Rob.
comment on that.
Oh, sure, go ahead, Janice.
So I actually brought back a lot of good information from Ben Stone and the speakers that were
I
provided.
got it. I have
And also, it was due to the fact that Mass Union could not get all the business. They were reworking their bylaws, and I think they were at least a half a dozen bylaws that had 12 sections to them, and they all had to be addressed. So unfortunately, the lunch was cut an hour short. I mean, they really rushed through the workshops, and everything was really pushed back. So it was, I wasn't all that happy with it, but I think I brought back as much information as I possibly could to the residents for the amount of time. And, you know, because basically it's the board members that and the members that, you know, have to decide, but it was not very well put together this time around, I should say. Okay, thank you.
You're absolutely right.
Thanks, Janice. Ross, I think you had your hand up
Yeah.
by a whisker first. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Ross Donald, resident of Chambers Street. And just on a couple of things. Last Thursday, there was a residents meeting advertised and held here, and organized by Helen Garagosian. And it was mostly about parking, as it turned out, but there was a representative from, well, he's actually, I think, an employee of AmeriCorps, but he was also here to talk about the Mass Union. And his name was Ken McPherson, and he was very energizing, I thought, for the group here. So the issue there is to get an LTO started here. So we expect to have the updated information. I was at a conference, you know, 5 or so years ago, and I think things have been updated since then. So we expect to get some help from Jack Cooper, who's retiring in a month. So we're going to get him before he leaves. But in his retirement, he might be available to do some special work for us. Do you think he's interested in the town? So we'll do that over the next couple of months. And on another matter, the town sewer and water department has been cleaning and clearing the drains and the canal that goes between the Maple Street residents and the property at the housing authority. It's mostly an easement of the property owners on Maple Street. And I think this effort was instigated because the summer before last, there was some flooding on Linden Street between Sylvan and Oak Street. And we weren't affected because we don't have any basements. So, but the people on Maple Street were impacted, and they prevailed upon the town to do this clearing work. And I think they should look at the kind of landscaping that we're doing here as being exactly opposite to what the maintenance people are doing from sewer and water. They're clearing the drains, and we're blowing all the organic matter into the drains. So this is something that the Conservation Commission has complained about that the property owners are doing with this area. And I think the Housing Authority really needs to look at its practices in these regards so that they don't continue to create and contribute to that particular problem. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yes, did you want
My
to?
name's Rachel.
Yep.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have known you were talking about me. So my two questions right now are, in reference to your first little section there about the bylaws or whatever. I heard you talk about, Governor Baker and, that he has allowed us to continue the hybrid, schedule. And my question regarding that topic is, once his tenure is over, does that mean that that decision will go forward, or does that stop and the next governor have to create a new law or sign to have it go forward or whatever? That's my first question. And my second question, so that you have all the information you need to answer my questions, all in one swoop, is, are there gonna be any votes today concerning any matter in this meeting? Thank you.
Well, the second question first, yes, there will be several votes as we go along on the various things that are on the agenda. And to your first question, I'm not an expert. But we can look into it and confirm what I'm about to say, which is my understanding is that Governor Baker's executive order will continue in effect past the time when he retires and Governor Healy takes over and continues it to that March timeframe. And that's really up to the new governor to decide what they're going to do from there. My guess is there will be legislation that's introduced in the general court for vote by the representatives and the senators to make some sort of permanent changes to the open meeting law. And if I had to guess, my guess is it's going to continue to allow these hybrid meetings to continue. And they may make some changes, but it's, it's a lot of people have commented to me that they found them very useful, even though we don't have to worry about as much about the pandemic. Sometimes it's convenient if you're out of town or you just can't physically make it to a meeting to be able to dial in remotely. And we were all dragged into the 21st century of video conferencing and video meetings. Because of the pandemic, but I think this is one of the things that will probably continue.
It was already in the pipeline because Zoom was already there.
Yep. But now we're all experts, right? I guess, quote unquote. I guess I just jinxed our meeting tonight.
Some
We'll
more than others.
probably some more than others, but it's just another way of making it easier for the public, in our case, our residents to attend the meetings if they can't physically be present. And we can continue to switch back and forth between Seabeds and Cook and Linden Chambers, and those people at Linden Chambers, at Seabeds and Cook who don't want to drive all the way down here or get hitch a ride, makes it easier for them. So
Can I have another?
one comment, 1 minute. Go ahead, Eleanor.
Yeah, so just one clarification about that. So we're actually not operating under the governor's order anymore. The legislature passed a law that permits us to meet remotely, and that law currently goes through March 31st, 2023. So it doesn't have anything really to do with the governor anymore. And as you indicated, Reg, the legislature may revisit between now and then, probably it wouldn't be until January when they start their new session, but whether to make permanent changes to the open meetings law to permit some form of remote participation in meetings.
Well, thank you. I stand corrected. I did think it was the governor that extended his own order, but I'm sure you know better than I. But anyway, you had one more question.
I didn't hear everything she said because her voice was kind of getting muffled a little bit.
She corrected me and said that it wasn't the governor who extended his own order. It was the general court, and that she did expect that January, when the new members are seated, that they'll probably tackle this whole issue and see if they're gonna make it permanent to do
Okay.
these hybrid meetings. Did you say you had another question?
Yeah, just
Rachel?
to follow up, is the things that are gonna be voted on, you said was part of the agenda. I didn't get an agenda.
It's
Nothing was
posted,
given to us.
it's not, it's posted with the town clerk's office, and afterwards, maybe Cheryl can show you how to get it.
Oh, okay, super
And
cool.
it's also posted on the bulletin boards in the community rooms and so forth.
Oh, I didn't know that how it worked.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and here's your agenda.
Oh, I'm too sweet. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other comment? Yes, go ahead.
But first question is, when you mentioned there will be voting tonight, is there going to be voting on the proposed bird feeder policy tonight? No.
I don't think so.
No, I hope to report on our meeting. But I hope to report to the board on our meeting that we had. On our meeting that we had, the group meeting,
Right,
I will report to the board on that.
okay.
That's where we are.
So is it possible that, that there might be some, discussion or now about possible revision of that, proposal?
In the agenda in about 10 minutes, I
I mean,
think.
I'll be able
Yeah.
to speak later on?
Yeah, it'll be
That-
later, right?
That's kind of what I
All
wanted to
right,
know.
great. Yeah, it probably makes more sense in the context of,
Last time, I think I was talking at the wrong time. I just want
Right.
to make sure I'll be able to.
Yep.
Able to say what I want.
and if I forget, I'm sure you'll remind, if I forget to call on you, please let me know. Okay, great.
I'll tap you on the shoulder.
All right, whatever. Okay, I think that's it for resident and community input. So we'll go to agenda item number A, which is our usual agenda item to approve the bill schedule and check warrant for all the payments that we need to make. And so we have before us the Needham Housing Authority bill schedule and check warrant totaling $395,363.06. And I'm going to ask any of the commissioners have any questions for Steve or Cheryl on the warrant that's in our packet tonight. Anybody? Yes, Penny, go ahead. You're on mute though.
I have a question on page 8, the first 2 items. I think that's the breakdown of the expenses. They're just very large amount and they both say legal, and I'd like to know what it's about. Captain Robert Cook and Linden Street.
What's it totaling that one there? Totaling $7,062.38. That one, right? Yes.
So that was a legal bill from our attorney, Driscoll and Associates, and it was a compilation of different actions that have been taken, different court actions. They have the list.
What things like
So it
eviction?
would refer to residents in the federal house. Probably a 3-month. I'm sorry?
So this is the Driscolls and this is things like evictions and that sort of thing?
No. This is Morgan Brown and Joy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think that would be I think that, yeah.
Okay, let me correct that. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at this right. Morgan Brown and Joy are the attorneys that represented the Housing Authority in the Tran matter,
So,
which resulted in an agreement.
so I'm gonna speculate here, and Steve is gonna correct me tomorrow if I'm wrong. But if you recollect, the services fees are split between our federal properties and our state properties. The timing of this invoice
Okay.
appears to me the wrap up of the Tran settlement and things. And this would be the split that I would expect to see. That $7,000 bill would be split in some formula between federal and state.
Okay,
Does that
thank
sound
you.
like?
It sounds right, and there is another, at least one other bill that came in just yesterday from them,
Okay.
which I'm hoping is the last one.
Any other questions for Steve?
Yep. On
Go
page
ahead.
21, there's a big expense of $53,000. Is that, it says security, is that dealing with this installation of cameras?
Yes, that is half, not quite half, that's a payment. Where are we, 21, did you say?
She's referring
Yeah.
to,
Page
Yeah.
21.
so if you go, it's really the,
Yeah, that's the cameras that were installed here at Linden Chambers. There is still an outstanding balance that we're holding of roughly 30,000, maybe just a little under 30,000. But that is the next to last payment, hopefully. But they haven't finished the work at this point. So they've been waiting for that payment for quite a while.
Okay,
okay, any other questions? I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the NHA bill check warrant, totaling $395,306.06. Do I hear a second?
second,
Second from Penny Kirk. Any further questions? Hearing none.
That's Janet.
Hmm?
That was Janice, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, it was Janet? I
Yes.
thought it was Penny, but Janice was on mute here. And I will call the roll. Eleanor Evans,
Eleanor Evans votes yes.
Ed Scheidler,
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk,
votes yes.
Dennis Bennett,
Yes,
and Rich Foster votes yes. So we now come to the High Rock Homes LLC bill check warrant of $30,619.60. Does any commissioners have any questions on that? Hearing none, I will make the motion to approve said check warrant for $30,619.60. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Scheidler. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Eleanor Evans,
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Ed Scheidler,
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk,
Penny Kirk votes aye.
Dennis Bennett,
aye.
and Rich Foster votes aye. That brings us to agenda item B, a review and approval of the board minutes. We have the minutes of 10/20/2022. That's our regular board meeting, and the special board meeting of 10/3/2022. That's a special board meeting on the repositioning presentation, and it also had a couple other agenda items that we piggyback in there as well. So let's take the 10/20/2022 minutes first. Does anybody have any comment? Those are start on page 29 of your packet. Any questions or comments or typos? Minor typos can be given to Cheryl. Go ahead, Penny.
Yeah, on page 36. It's possible that I expressed myself in the wrong way, or I wasn't heard, or whatever, but it says here under number 7 that Commissioner Kirk stated that it has always been her plan to continue to do the writing of grants. What I was really saying, and what my intention is, no one was writing any grants because we didn't have a service coordinator, and there were these opportunities coming up. So I put it upon myself to write a grant to the local cultural council, and then I learned of this bigger grant that I'm in the process of putting together. And I intend to see that to completion. But then at that point, I intend to turn that over to Lori, that because it's part of her job description. I'd be glad to help her get started on it. But I was not planning to do it for the rest of my term.
Great. So can we rely on Cheryl to reduce that to a sentence or so? It sort of would say, it's Commissioner Kirk stated that she will fill in temporarily to help write grants until our new resident services coordinator can take over and do it as part of her ongoing job responsibilities, something like that. Does that sound right, Penny? Okay, great. Any other comments on the minutes there? I have one just for the record, one on page 29, the very first page. DHCD was says covers 2/5. I think it was 35,000 out of the 50,000, so it's a little bit more than that. Yeah,
More than 2/5?
yeah. So and then one other, and I do this just because this is our official record of the meeting. There's a minor typo that I'll give you, Cheryl, on page 34 about the amount of third paragraph, 1.25 million. Just fix that. So
Okay.
with those corrections, I make a motion that we approve these. Oh, Penny, you have another one. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I had one other question. The, under H, new business, the acceptance of the van, do we actually have the van now?
No,
But why are you asking that now? Just for, we're on the minutes right now.
That's part of the minutes.
Oh, I see. Okay,
So I just wondered, we keep talking about
okay,
this.
great.
When does it
Yep.
arrive?
Do we expect to receive the van soon?
We expect it any day. I don't have a name of who to get the actual bill of sale from. That we need for, registration purposes. So I put feelers out, but, we've had a little bit of a spat with the health department, so I don't know if that's what's holding it up or not.
Okay. Any other corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I repeat my motion to approve the minutes of October 20th, 2022. Do I hear a second?
second,
Second from Janice Bennett. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll yet again. Eleanor Evans,
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Ed Scheidler,
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
E. Kirk,
Penny Kirk votes aye.
Janice Bennett,
Janice Bennett votes aye.
and Reg Foster votes aye. So the minutes as amended in our discussion just now are approved. We come to the minutes of the 10/3/2022 special board meeting, which has the mostly the CHA presentation. But I just wanted to point out that it also has something that's important for the record, which is a approval of the kitchen upgrade to Matthew's house that we kind of piggybacked on that meeting. And also the even more important contract extension of the executive director for the next interim executive director for the next 6 months that I didn't want us to lose sight of, that was approved during this meeting here. So does anybody have any other comments with respect to this this set of minutes or corrections? Hearing none, I'm gonna just give you something that you can put in up front on this minutes, where just so that if we ever have to go back in the record and say, where the heck did we approve Steve's contract extension or this kitchen renovation, that we know about that. So I'll just give you this, if that's okay with the board, just another sentence in the chairman's opening remarks here. And I will make a motion to approve these minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the vote again. Eleanor Evans,
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Ed Scheidler,
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny
Penny
Kirk,
Kirk votes aye.
Janice Bennett,
Janice Bennett votes aye.
and Rich Foster votes aye. As everybody can tell, one of the recommendations I'm going to make to the general court is that we don't have to do roll call vote necessarily if you have remote commissioners here. Who knows whether it will go anywhere. Okay, we do not have the executive session minutes yet. They're sort of overtaken by events, but we will get to those here. So I'm now on agenda item C, which is the executive director's report.
Starting with the financials as of September 30th, the quarter. We're in pretty good shape. We have, our income is up. We have had some extraordinary expenses, particularly in the apartment turnover, as we've reported before. We've turned over, it'll be about 42 units in a year, which is about 15% of our inventory, I was told today. And didn't do the math, that's why, don't quote me on the math, but I think that's right. But the income being up helps. We have had to dip into some of the extraordinary costs, which may delay the purchase of a dump truck, which we do badly need. But right at the moment, if we were to go and purchase that, it would put us below the reserve threshold that DHCD likes, because we are waiting for reimbursement from DHCD on the lawsuit payout. Once we get that, that would put us in a good spot. I met with the accountants today because they were in today for the end of October. So we had a meeting on that. But otherwise, I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary that we need to be too concerned with. We have had to remove some trees at Great Plain Avenue that were in danger of falling, losing limbs, and Gary had brought in a tree removal program, a company to do that. And we're also looking at some other dangerous trees that are around. And I think you'll hear one proposal a little bit later about the seabeds. We'll talk about that. I'm ready to put out a request for proposals for accounting services. And that would, it's not with the idea of having to change, but right now, Melanie and Shaw don't incorporate High Rock Homes into their accounting supervision, and we'd like to do that. And the federal accounting has not been procured in a number of years, and HUD wants to see that done on a more regular basis before you just roll over contracts. So that will be going out. But I would just perhaps check with the board for consensus or not. On the High Rock Homes, my proposal that I've written to date says that they would do the reconciliation with on a quarterly basis for High Rock Homes because of the size of that budget and then that report. Just thought it might be easier just to run a quarterly basis and might save us a little bit on ongoing fees. If anybody has a problem, we could certainly put it out the other way. Have it written both ways, so it's not. It was just something that.
Does any of the other board members have a thought on what Steve is proposing? Just by way of context for the audience here, the typical warrant for High Rock Homes is in the range of $15,000 to $20,000 per month, relative to the Needham Housing Authority check warrant, which tends to be $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 a month. So it's less than 10%. And if that you're saying that it's sort of more efficient to get a quarterly financial report rather than requiring a monthly report.
Right, the monthly report is very incrementally small.
But we would still be approving checks monthly, I would imagine, or,
The check one,
Yeah.
yeah.
any comments or questions, thoughts from anybody?
Are you asking us?
No, this is all the commissioners meeting that we're doing right.
We
I
see
have
them-
a question.
Yes, go ahead, Janice.
Yeah, so we would get something every 3 months. Is that what you're saying, Steve? Because you're trying to condense it because there's really not enough information in one particular report to get to gauge the exact amount of the probably the particular item on that particular agenda.
Yeah, it's a very small, this High Rock Homes only. obviously, the Housing Authority wouldn't get every month. But the High Rock Homes would be it's very small. I mean, if there was anything that happened on a larger level, we'd report that out. But, it just, to have them come in and do a monthly bookkeeping on it just would be, you know.
Okay, so that's just for the High Rock Homes LLC.
The High
Yeah.
Rock Homes, yeah.
Yeah, that stands to reason.
Okay, I think the sense of the board is to support quarterly financial reporting for High Rock Homes. Okay.
And then next,
Are we voting on that? No?
No, he was asking for
No.
a sense of the board.
so the quarterly financial report is also included, follows the monthly. And the monthly was the end of the quarter, so the numbers will look very much the same. They're just a little bit different reports that go into the state. I don't know if you have any questions on those.
I don't believe we received those before. Is there anything you would like to call to our attention about them?
Nothing at this point. You know, I've always supplied them to the board, so I'm gonna have to go over myself and see if there's anything new that we can talk about. But yeah, you should receive them. But it's more, a little different detail, but the numbers all shake out to be the same at the end of the day. It has a few more numbers than you would see monthly, perhaps with fixed assets and the equity and stuff, but it's just that it's quarterly report that goes to the state. Federal government doesn't get the quarterlies, the state does.
Okay,
Next up is the monthly management report.
starts on page 67, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Report. Good stuff. The biggest number that pops out is on the top, on the occupancy is, you know, we start out a year ago, September with 28, went to 30 in October. And right at the end of October came by, we had 3 vacants. It's an incredible effort by both Nada and her staff and Gary and his staff. And it has taken up a lot of resources. As I said earlier with the budget, we had to buy a lot additional materials over the year. But we are in a good spot right now, and hopefully everybody stays healthy and in place, and we can make some hay here with a more consistent vacancy rate.
Well, that's great.
Good.
The work orders that are written each month are finished at the end of the month. For the most part, we had a few earlier in the year, but really for the most part, they are completed at the end of the month. Which is great, but it's not always it's not the most important thing if you have to keep one open for a few days, but it is good to see that. It means that we are able now to return to finishing work orders and fixing the routine things that come up. The rents charged and received is the next page. Is the total for all public housing for the month and the rent collected. And the following pages show a little bit of detail on where there are issues with rent collections. And we don't have a horrible problem, but we do have some that are late or for some other reason aren't being paid on time. Any questions on?
From the manager report, any questions on the manager report from the board? Or shall we move on? Why don't we move on?
Okay,
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Ed.
On page 69, the High Rock Estates total balance is overdue 90+ days of $7,200. is there a particular that I see two residents? Were they allowed to get behind and then we determined that they were uncollectible, or one for 3,900 and one for 3,000?
This one and that one here. I didn't bring the address with me.
The bottom one for the 3004 is a resident that has been historically an issue, and I know Nate is working with a couple of different service agencies to help get that taken care of. And it looks like that's the way we're moving. That someone will help that person out and keep the family in place. The top one has a little bit larger rent, so we're I'm gonna have to run that by, I don't know if Nate is with us.
I guess my question is at $437 a month to accumulate $3,900 in past due would kind of indicate that we let it go for 8 or 9 months. And how long does it take us to react to do corrective action?
Well, the only, the one caveat here is because, I have to look at the age. So that the 3,900 is 90 days plus. So we're backing into COVID territory there. When there was, when you couldn't evict, or start an eviction process. So I don't know, is Nate, are you with us?
Steve, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. So basically the top person, the one with 3,900, she was entered into court back in August, September, and the case got continued. Then we finally just ended up doing an agreement 2 weeks ago. So that amount will be erased by next month.
Now, was that person unable to find productive employment during the pandemic or the
Correct. Correct. And
Okay.
and they ended up getting some assistance with the payment. And then the one that's on the bottom, the $3,004.
Yep.
The court case was held today. It's been continued probably 4 times. She is also trying to get financial assistance, and it has not been approved yet. So the case is continued until that gets approved.
Okay. This is a question. Please don't assume this is a challenge. But
Mhm.
if somebody's unemployed, to the best of my knowledge, we're supposed to reduce their rent to 0. If
That
they
is
can't
correct. That is correct. Neither one of them were unemployed. They were
Okay.
receiving benefits
pay. Okay.
and they were working.
So did we not adjust their rent correctly to their income?
It had nothing to do with their income. It had to do with them failing to pay their rent. Their income
Okay.
is, they are still working and they are still receiving benefits as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nate.
Okay,
Adam?
great. Thank you, Nader. Any other questions on the management report for Steve? Otherwise, why don't you go on to the rest of your agenda items here? See.
So the next item is the bird feeder policy that we brought up at the last meeting. And since that meeting, we had a resident meeting at Seabed's Way, which is where the major emphasis was, although not the only emphasis, but it was the major. And it was a very, well, I consider it a very good meeting. And came up with a potential solution to that issue, which will entail removing a tree that is there, that is a crabapple tree that not only attracts the turkeys and the like, but also I'm told at this meeting, this again, this is the residents of the neighborhood, that it is a trip and fall hazard because they slip on the crab apples and that it was suggested that we remove it. And so that is where the bird feeder in question hangs. So we came up with a compromise, and I'm hoping that the chair will allow Lou to respond, that we would put a hook up there so that we would, for the winter, we would have bird feeder, and that over the winter, we will have someone design a cutout opposite the driveway, opposite the opposite side of the driveway, some type of little sitting area where we could then install a bird hooks and have that for the future. And that would also tell us what the what's really attracting the birds to the front window, because there are some great songbirds that show up there, and then there are other black and starlings and pigeons and the turkeys, of course. We have our neighborhood turkeys. So my proposal would be that we make that an agreement that we take that tree down. We'll put up something else in the spring that wouldn't be as fruit bearing. Might actually have some flowering in the spring, because apple trees look great in the spring, but then I guess the maintenance the rest of the year, or the danger that they provide to neighbors, has been a bone of contention there. If I may?
Yeah.
Lou, does that synopsis?
I didn't hear the end of what you just said in.
I just said that the apple tree has been, it looks great in the spring, but over the course of the summer and fall, it becomes more of a problem.
Well, it starts to become a problem in August, late August,
Mhm.
and September. Even now, in November, the crab apples now are rotting up there, and they fall down on the ground, and that's when the wind spreads them all around there. They're almost gone at this point. Probably by the end of December, the tree will have nothing on it. So I don't think there's any rush on taking the tree down at that point until maybe the apples don't even appear until probably the beginning of August. There's nothing there, just leaves, and we have buds. So they don't even start growing until early August, and then they're usually ripe by mid-September. And then it takes, a couple of months for them to actually rot and then start to fall.
So do you have any other comments on the proposed solution
Yes.
that was
I would
come
like
up
to,
with the meeting here?
If has all the board seen what your proposal is, that they have a copy of that?
No, we
No,
don't.
we're
They
just
don't,
talking about it.
okay.
We're not
Discussion.
reviewing the policy, right? We're not reviewing the
You're not
policy.
reviewing
and,
policy.
No.
We're just receiving an update report from Steve here.
Okay.
About
No,
the solution that we talked about. So
I'm sorry?
about the solution that we talked about. That we
Right.
talked about at the meeting, that
Well, the one thing that I was gonna bring up, on the policy that's proposed is that there would be no bird feeder available for 4 months. June, July, August, September, which are prime months for, bird watchers. And that's, for me to have to live through 4 months of not being able to have my birds around, it's devastating, really. I wanted to enter in my behalf a letter from my doctor and an explanation to the board. Steve, I think, has already seen it, but could I give that to you with the?
Sure, but we don't have the policy. Go ahead and bring the letter, but we don't have the policy in front of us. so,
Okay, I thought
yeah.
that you did.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
I just didn't know if you were gonna make revisions. I was just gonna suggest that
I was.
maybe we not do that 4 month period. It's really hard to.
the time to maybe
I
talk.
also have I just spent $70 on a new feeder a couple of weeks ago, and there's only small birds will get on there now. So you don't see the crows or even the blue jays. The pigeons are minimal.
So, Lou, we don't have the policy in front of us, so
Okay.
we don't know what you're referring to here, so. But, you know, at some point, maybe the
some point
next
we'll-
meeting.
Yeah, we'll have a meeting, another resident meeting, but this meeting that we had was a very good meeting with residents. All the residents came down, even those who were arguing with each other.
Yeah,
And
no,
came up with this particular solution for this particular place right now. So that's not a policy. Let's fix what's there right now.
yeah,
The policy will take more time, more input. I'm not,
Okay.
not gonna surprise you with it.
Good.
Okay, we're not gonna come to the board without talking to the residents again.
Okay.
But we can take the other action that would then also identify, the tree attracts more of the larger birds to sit in it.
yeah.
I
that's
think
why
that was
they're
what was
not- They're
told.
not around anymore because of this new freedom.
Well, but
It
they
also
also,
has a mechanism on it that even squirrels are
So
hitting.
may I
birds.
suggest,
Yeah.
both of you, we don't have this on the agenda, so, it's out of context here
the other.
to both of you here.
Just
And,
wanna make sure.
but I do have your letter. I'm not gonna read it now, but I will circulate it to the other members of the board, okay?
Thank you.
Great. Onward.
So the other item that we faced was, we had a parking meeting here at Linden Chambers. And took a lot of input and concerns about parking spaces and how many we have and how many apartments we have and the difference between the two numbers, which don't favor the parking spaces because we have fewer parking spaces than we do apartments, which makes assigning parking really a battleground. We do have a number of folks who do have assigned spaces and a good number that don't. At some point in the last few years, the practice was stopped, but there are still existing. So we've come up with a proposal to first of all, one of the things we want to do is issue all new parking stickers for the area so that we have a mixture of stickers right now. This will clean it all up. We'll get everybody on board so we know who does have stickers by right and who lives here. We will mark spaces that are currently assigned to folks with a marking system. We're not putting names on and the plan is not to put numbers on, but to put markings on that and put a sign up that says what markings mean, what it means to folks. We had, the meeting went from cool to warm to hot to back to cool, as you can imagine. And I think we had again, I think it was a productive meeting. We had, I'm not sure if Nada was with us, but Blair was with us. Cheryl, were you there at that?
No,
You missed
Lori
that. You were
was there.
training back then. Well, we did have I think a productive meeting and I know they had another one. Helen had brought one in last week with the Mass Union. As was reported out earlier. So it's a work in progress to try to get a fair and equitable parking situation. And one of the gentlemen got up and says, well, why don't when you move in, you get a parking space, which went right back to the problem that would be great, except I'm short I think about 70 parking spaces, so that doesn't quite work.
Does anybody have any questions on that, commissioners? I
just
have,
want-
go ahead, Janice.
I was just gonna say, hopefully we'll get better after they knock it down and build it back up.
I will
That's-
say that is one thing that will be looked at by the new designer team.
That's
But we
way too
still have-
much of a shortage of parking for elderly. Wow.
But we do, it is a challenge on this site, so, may I ask, of the 152 or 150, I guess, occupied units, how many tenants or how many households, let me call it that way, how many actually have cars?
I would have to put that in about half at this point,
So,
so about 80, roughly 80.
mhm,
At this point.
okay, and how many parking spaces do we have?
We have, I want to say 52 here and somewhere near 40 on the other side.
Mhm.
And we are taking advantage, there are some folks at the Oak Street end of our property that park across the street in the public spaces on, the side street there.
Mhm.
So we do get a little relief from that.
Right.
It's a
There's
challenge.
a challenge. Well, to your question, Janice, it'll be a total requirement for us to figure out how that's going to work.
Yeah, well, I hope if I'm still on the
development.
board at that time, that, yeah, that's definitely gonna be an issue.
It'll be
with me
next
for
year.
Elderly, yeah.
If you're on the board next year, that's when
I
it'll be
guess I'll be
tackled.
here.
Yeah, okay, great.
Plus
Thank
adequate
you.
handicap spots,
Beg your pardon?
plus adequate handicap spots.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and what I found in the past, Penny, was there's a lot of folks that live in our senior housing that can get handicap placards. But what they really want is to be close to their apartment.
Right.
It's not even that they need the handicap extra space, but they want to be close. And I have a development in Norwood, 152 units, exact number. And we had about 80 parking spaces when I got there. We added, I think, about 50 by taking a common area and putting in spaces. And all those requests went away. Because then what happens is you get into people with placards fighting over spaces. But once you have spaces near apartments, that dynamic kind of goes away, which is much better for the office. We're not really parking police, so it's frustrating.
Challenging,
Challenging.
work in progress, bank issues.
Bank issues, we're gonna have to get signatures from everybody so that we can install them into our system. But I'm also waiting to hear back from the Needham Bank on their revised proposal on providing services for us. I think I've mentioned last month, TD Bank had updated theirs, and Needham Bank is updating theirs now, so we can compare apples to apples. I think we had a meeting with the Needham Bank on other issues, and I think that's later in the channel.
Oh, yeah.
So that's still in process. The other thing that, if I could, under other issues,
Yeah, let's do the formula funding. Go ahead.
yeah, I
And
have
then,
a letter from DHCD. This is a contract. And this is for the formula funding for fiscal year 2025. And they are awarding us, and they have announced this earlier, $253,079. And that 9,400 of that is for a compliance reserve award for 6672 asbestos containing flooring mitigation, and then the formula funding award, which is part of the annual plan. So this is money that is programmed out to the fiscal year 2025. But what we have to do as a board, we have to sign the contract, which is an extension of the contract for financial assistance, 5001. It's an extension, so it's amendment number 8. So you've been seeing this contract every year, and every year when they award the formula funding, you have to sign an amendment to it. So that's what we are looking to do today. This came out literally Monday. It's November 15th. It was dated, but we didn't get it till Monday. We'd like to, it's kind of a pro forma, because again, they told us this amount last spring. They would have told you what it was going to be. This is just the contract so they can put under the state paperwork, if you will.
Does any commissioners have any questions for Steve on this?
We're gonna go.
Here, I will just make the comment that, again, I don't have the good enough memory or a good enough documentation system going back years, but this additional 253,000 for our formula funding for fiscal 25, how does that compare to 24, 23, 22? It strikes me as about the same.
It is about the same. It's about the same. I
So
think
there's
it's-
been no increase,
No,
the trend of increasing. There were other amendments where there were one-time adjustments. But in terms of the annual amount,
it's probably less than $10,000 difference.
and yet, construction costs and
Yeah.
supplies costs and, materials costs and everything have been going up 10% a year during this period of, last 5 years is my impression.
Yeah.
And maybe 20% in the last year.
Probably.
So,
This is, this number though is tied to to a bond bill.
right, oh, no, I
It's already been
understand that,
issued,
but
so
it's,
that's why.
it's not adjusting for
It's not adjusting for
inflation,
inflation, right.
yeah. So, $250,000 obviously is a lot better than no dollars, but it's a lot less than the buying power of the fiscal year 2022 that we're just finishing up.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I will entertain a motion from a commissioner to approve amendment number 8 to our contract for financial assistance in the amount of $253,079.
So moved.
Eleanor moves that, and
Could you also just
yes,
recognize in the motion if you could to
authorize.
authorize me to sign it?
Is it me, you only,
Yeah,
or
it's
you
a
and me?
DocuSign,
Okay,
so I have to.
and to authorize the executive director to sign it, if that's okay, Eleanor. So that's
Yes.
moved. And do I hear a second from another commissioner?
Second,
Second from Janice Bennett. Hearing no further discussion, I will call the roll. Eleanor Evans
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
and Ed Scheidler,
Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk,
And Kirk votes aye.
and Janice Bennett,
Janice Bennett votes aye.
and Reg Foster votes aye, approved. Okay, anything else, on the executive director's report? We come to D, quarterly report of the resident services coordinator. I assume that's just a placeholder because we got the quarterly report last month.
Yeah, so it's a placeholder, but I just wanted to mention a couple of things, because
Go ahead.
if I could, Laurie's been just going full force here. First of all, if people are concerned, Thanksgiving, Springwood's having an event here in the London Chambers Community Room on Monday. And the Needham Community Council is having an event, and the Council on Aging. So we didn't do a lot for Thanksgiving because things were already being done. For Christmas, though, a couple of things. One is in conjunction with the High Rock School. So it's titled Santa for a Senior or something like that. And what it is we have invited our senior, our elders to fill out a form that would request a Christmas gift in $20 to $30 range. And working with High Rock School and Stephen Miller there, he's a sixth grade teachers, a teacher who would come to us. They're going to organize the students there to create ornaments. So the list will go on to ornaments. So each ornament would have a senior's first name and what they requested. And Laurie has arranged for various merchants and banks and real estate offices to accept some of those ornaments on trees that they have or hang up on some type of holiday decoration. And then people could take those ornaments and buy the gift and return it there. Or if they wanted to make a cash donation, we've also set up a Venmo cash availability so that they can take a picture of, they can QR code, they can flash the camera, the QR code, and the Venmo comes up, and if you have a Venmo, you can then automatically just send money. So it works because I was the first one to do it yesterday in the office, but through the magic. So, and that will allow us to purchase, gifts or what many people have asked. Literally, the notice has been out less than 2 days and we have almost 20 returns. Mostly gift cards for grocery stores or things like that. So the gifts that do come in will be picked up in December, and there'll be a wrapping event at the center at the Heights. Where what it has done in the past, what Laurie's done in the past is that's where seniors wrap the gifts for other seniors. The Needham Cable Channel has agreed to come and do a story on it, so it's really it'll be a nice warm Christmas story, if you will, holiday story. And so that's going on now. And Cheryl can talk a little bit, if you would, on the Santa visit too.
Yes, so there's a gentleman in town, his name is Gary, and he's piggybacked on the Needham Women's Club, who's done a Santa visit program to families that would like to have their children, would like to have Santa visit their children, and also to families that Santa will bring gifts to. So we have identified about 10 families who we will connect with Gary on connecting the families to his program. And Santa, he will organize the Santa volunteers, and they will go out to these homes of families ages 2 to 9 and deliver gifts on Christmas Eve. So it's a great program. He reached out to us. I think he and Deb Tambo did it in the past. She would identify families in need and give that information to him. So it just warms my heart. I could have given it to Lori to take over, but I'm thrilled, about this volunteer effort. So it's Santa's, can't remember the exact name, but it used to be part of a women's club, a women's organization in Needham. So that's exciting. And we're doing other things. We're working on other ways to reach out to families
And Commissioner Kirk sent an email today with an advice about approaching the Needham Fire Department, which we're going to look into tomorrow or potentially Tuesday. That was very appreciated and something that for Toys for Tots, so we can make sure that our folks have the opportunity for a little bit of joy at the season. The other one, the Calmia Garden Club, is doing a not a wreath, but a bow decorating event. I think, is that here? I think that's here. I think it's here.
I think it is.
In early December.
Yeah.
And they just approached us this week on that. So there's a lot of, as I say, opportunities for folks to get involved and help out their neighbors and also enjoy the season and make it more festive. So
I'd like
Looking
to add a
forward to it.
comment. Can I comment?
Go ahead, yes, Janice.
Yeah, well, Steve, I noticed for the Halloween party, you guys really went all out with the decorations, which was very nice. I hope they're going to be stored properly for future parties. But the thing I wanted to add is if you're going to have like a little Christmas party for the kids, my suggestion is that the kids make their own decorations for the party, pre-party, and then take them home to their own houses at Christmas time. There's plenty of things, that I have a lot of good ideas for Christmas crafts, easy to make, and it's such a fun thing for the kids to do with themselves and to see, their own creations.
absolutely. And it's not just the kids either. Today we've purchased trees for each of the community rooms. What I've done in the past is invite the seniors to actually bring maybe 1 or 2 of their decorations down to put on the tree, one that maybe they don't get to use anymore because they don't have the room, and to share that with the rest of the community. And that's been really successful. They can also do crafts and make some as well. And it could be another way to have some festivities. And before, Janice, before we let go, we have, there's a food pantry that Janice had received from a young man who had done this as a project. We have it here in the community room at Linden Chambers now.
Nice.
And I think, talking to Gary today, he brought up the point that maybe we should keep it indoors for now, because of the weather, because of freezing. I don't know how that, how you feel about that, or if there was any instructions about that, but.
Well, he's had it for, well, I've had it for, it came to me like 2-3 months ago. I just want to say that. And I did send the email about getting it in the ground before it froze. I mean, that was the woman's hope. I mean, her son built it over the summer. And now I feel kind of bad that it's not in, because she did point out about getting it in the ground before it froze. And now I feel bad it's not going to be there.
No, we can get it down. We can get it up. I think the concern was, food, even, canned food freezing. It's not that we can't get it up. We can still get it up. What I'm asking is, if you think we should keep it indoors for the winter and then move it outdoors in the warmer weather where things can't freeze. We can get it in the ground.
Freezing that's a really good point. I haven't thought about that.
I have to credit Gary with that one. He brought that up.
Yeah. I mean, I know they have one down at Lawando's. I don't know how that's doing, but that's a very good point. And Katerina may not have even thought about that, but if you could send me an email to that, I just would like something, to back up my story that I can give to her. I mean, you saw it. It's beautiful, right?
Yeah, we have it's right in front of me. I
So
can
let
see it
me
here, yeah.
suggest you two take this offline and we keep moving the meeting along the agenda here.
Okay.
But that all
Okay.
sounds great. It sounds
Okay.
wonderful.
All good stuff.
Anything else on resident
No, that's
services?
all.
Okay. We come to the search committee report and Janice Bennett and the search committee. How are we doing with the search committee for the new executive director?
Okay. Well, we've had 6 resumes distributed to the entire committee. We did meet on November 4th. We went over all the resumes. It was decided to bring 4 of them forward for an interview. And that's good. That's going to be happening, I believe Monday, November 28th.
Yeah, maybe you could put yourself on mute there. Yeah. Go ahead, Janice.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. That meeting is going to happen on Monday, the 28th, after Thanksgiving, and the time and place has not, the time and place has not been determined. Steve, did you get my late email today? Maybe not.
I saw that late. I haven't been able to do anything on it. I will
Yeah,
tomorrow.
so I don't know this, I'm assuming there isn't any scheduled things at Seabeds on a Monday because Laurie is not there, but I wasn't sure about the CAT if they may have hold programming, and it got too late to call, but I was hoping to give reasonable accommodations to a certain committee member with hearing aids that the Cooksbridge arced sailings have created an echo for his hearing aids. So
Yeah, we should be able
I was
to.
looking for another venue because I think the office is too small. And I also wanted to know about whether we're all going to be able to ask questions or not, or do we have to submit them to Rick since he hasn't been available because, he had
He's back around. We can check with him, but I know in the past, he's always allowed the board members to actually, the committee members to ask questions.
Okay, good. So, I wanted to make sure every commissioner had at least 5 questions, so there's no overlap. And, do we have to submit them to Mr. Lecco, or can we just do it? And are we all gonna meet in one spot, or is it gonna be total Zoom?
To my knowledge, there's only one Zoom candidate. I think that's what I read in the last, in the
I thought they
schedule.
were all gonna, no, he said it was gonna be Zoom, by Zoom.
I'll confirm that. We can confirm that tomorrow with him.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, we'll have to get with that. So yeah, that's the base of it. The rest is to be determined, but maybe we may be able to bring something to the board for December, who knows? It's still in the works.
Great. Well, that's a great update report. You said commissioners earlier, but I think you meant search committee members are doing the interviewing. Is that right?
Yep, I stand corrected.
No, I'm just making sure there's no misunderstanding here.
Yeah, the
Um,
committee members. The committee
And then
members.
I recollect from last time that DHCD has some requirements for how the interviews are conducted that Rick knows about, and he will be making sure that we'll
Yeah,
be
he's
following.
gonna be doing the comparison. I figured I'd leave the deets out for right now because we want to get our time and date and everything down. And I was gonna present another update to you, Rich, before
Mhm.
everything is said and done.
Right, yeah, I don't remember what those are, I'm just, it's been 2 or 3 years, but the other, I know, there was also something that DHCD wants to make sure that, not exactly, but approximately, that all candidates are asked sort of the same questions. You don't, I'm just gonna use a ridiculous example, but you don't, ask all of the candidates about their financial management background experience for housing authorities, but forget to do it with one. You need to sort of make sure you get everybody gets a sort of approximately even chance to answer questions here. So, okay, well, great. Thanks
Yeah,
for
I
the
guess
update.
there's a score, I guess there's a score sheet that's in play.
Right.
So
Right.
everyone will have their checks, Reg. I just didn't want to get into, how the process goes. But yeah,
Sure.
there is a process. But yeah,
I guess I would ask on behalf of the other commissioners that are not involved, how do we feel about these 4 candidates? Do we have some good, at least on paper, good-looking candidates? And I don't mean that from an appearance point of view, but, from a competency point of view.
they haven't seen them.
They haven't seen the resumes?
No, they have seen the resumes.
No, I'm saying, do we have good candidates as far as we can tell so far? 4 good
We have a
candidates.
couple. We have a couple that I like.
Ed, you're on the committee too. Do you have anything you want to weigh in?
We have 4 candidates. They're all qualified. We need to interview them to determine, it's my understanding, the procedure is that we decide on 2 candidates to be presented to the board.
Okay.
Recommendations from the committee.
That's right.
Okay.
So I think we're in a position to move forward. Certainly, I am hoping that Rich Lico will coordinate it because he's done it before.
Yep.
But there seems to be adequate direction from DHCD on how we should progress.
Good. Great. Okay, Eleanor, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed here. I guess we're ready for agenda item F, status updates, external initiatives. Housing Plan Working Group. Ed, are you in a position to give an update?
I
there?
think that you are much more involved than I am and are in a much better position to bring everybody up to date.
Okay, sure. As Ed knows, there was a public, we announced this last month. There was a public community meeting last night of the Housing Plan Working Group in Powers Hall. And that was to, give any and all members of the general public who haven't been involved in this an opportunity to comment on the draft plan, which is weighing in at around 175 to 200 pages here. And there was a presentation and a turnout and a lot of questions. I wasn't able to sat through a little bit of it, but not all of it. But I was told it happened both when I was just listening in as an attendee. And I was told actually earlier today by the staff person who's running this, Karen Sonnenberg. Why do I blocking her last name? That the things we care about in particular fared fairly well. There was strong support for the Preservation and Redevelopment Initiative by a number of speakers. There was strong support for allocating more of the annual CPA funding awards in the direction of community housing and affordable housing. So I think, we, the Needham Housing Authority, will be play a role in the plan, the go forward plan for the next few years when it comes to deeply affordable housing. What we're trying to do makes sense, and not only to the committee, but also to the various members of the public that commented last night. So that's where that's at. And I think their next, their plan is to have a meeting on December 8th, which Ed, I can't attend because I'll be traveling then. And Karen Sonnenberg is trying to take all these verbal comments yesterday, all the written comments that have been received in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and try to craft that into a near final draft of the plan for presentation on December 8th. So, any comments or questions on that from anybody? Okay, let's go to the PRI. Everybody, the last couple of pages of the board packet has the Cambridge Housing Authority monthly report. Unfortunately, we thought we were going to be able to announce by tonight that the contract's been signed by the A&E design with the A&E designer firm, but it hasn't been yet because it's been sitting on some desk in DHCD, waiting their final approval, even though there is no changes to the required DHCD contract, other than just filling in the names of the winners and signing it. I guess they, to be more, neutral about that. They, there is the whole report that was crafted by the local selection committee justifying the award, and I guess they need to review that, make sure that nothing was overlooked. But it's very close. Is where things are at right now. And then a kickoff meeting will be scheduled, a few days or a week or two after that contract signing. Looks like it's going to be sometime in December, because November is basically over, with Thanksgiving week being next week. So any questions about that or the Cambridge Housing Authority report before I go on to the fiscal year 24 CPA funding applications. Okay, in your board packet tonight are the two funding applications, one of which we sent out a copy when we decided, earlier this afternoon. Hopefully you got it in email. These have gone through, these are the draft number 4 of these applications. And as a result of a fair amount of work with Steve and Cheryl and the Cambridge Housing Authority's team in kind of distilling out what looks like what's going to be happening over the next 12 to 24 months and crafting them into these two funding applications. And I'm going to take them just at one at a time for discussion. And at the end, I'm going to ask the board if we are ready to do that, to approve the submission of these applications to the CPC with any amendments or corrections or tweaks or whatever that we come up with tonight's discussion. So I'll start with the Seabeds Cook one. And I think it pretty much speaks for itself. But I will just, and again, these are supposed to be in very summary form. They don't want more than 100 words of answer in each one of the 3 sections here, even though we kind of took some liberties with how many words there actually are there. Hopefully nobody's counting. The Seabeds and Cook one basically says, is premised on the fact that we'll be making a decision to go forward with the repositioning, and that we will be needing to hire an A&E designer services firm to implement all the repairs and so forth, to design them, all the repairs and preservation activities that are in the documents that we reviewed on the October 3rd meeting. And it's going to cost, on the estimated order of about $1 million just to do all that designing work, 1.134 million. And under the CPA funding regulations and guidance, not all of that can be funded through CPA funds because it doesn't qualify as preservation. Only a portion of it that deals essentially with building safety and the building envelope will qualify. And after going through all the calculations, bottom up, that turns out to be $240,000, or about a quarter of the overall designer services money that would have to be expended to fully design what would be implemented in a later construction phase for preserving, modernizing, and renovating the Seabeds and Cooks buildings. So we're asking the town to chip in $240,000 of the 1.1 million to help fund that phase of the Seabeds Cook modernization project. So any comments or questions from anybody on this? Hopefully it reads clearly to you folks, because you're kind of the test, the last test before it goes before the Community Preservation Committee for the December 1st deadline. Any thoughts? Does it look good?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to the other one, which is for Linden Chambers redevelopment. And as you all know, we're grateful that the town awarded 1.386 million for the A&E Designer Services work that is, I just spoke of, that we're trying to sign the contract and launch for the next 12 to 15 months here. That amount of money from the town is about half of what it's been predicted. It's in the contract that's being signed. And the other half for completing the schematic design is coming from the $1.25 million that that Representative Garlick was so great to get for us from the ARPA bill as an earmark. But that's only for designer services phase 1. And the contract has a further $800,000 phase 2 of the design that is not yet funded. And there are other costs that are not yet funded that are described in this application, again, in very summary form. And basically, we rounded that up to $1 million of additional CPA funding from the town of Needham. And this is going to allow us, if and when we have an approved overall schematic design for redeveloping Linden and Chambers Street. So that's all 152 units on all of the 8.4 acres. Another thing that will be defined is a construction phase 1, which would be a portion of the overall project. And it's phase 1 because we see no path whatsoever to be able to get the money to reconstruct or redevelop the entire property all in one big project, nor, in addition, there are a lot of disadvantages of trying to do a huge project like that, but there just isn't the money to fund it, just for starters. But we do see our way forward to getting the funding for a phase 1, which would probably involve taking some of the maybe 8 of the low-rise, single-story Linden Street buildings. Each one has 4 units, so that would be 32 units. And take that portion of the property, it's the north part of the property, and just redevelop that part into maybe 50 or 60 units that are, just by going up 1 story from, 32, you can go up to 64 units in the same footprint. Of course, it would look completely differently, but just conceptually, you can see how that would work. That's going to be worked out by the entire, by the A&E Designer Services team, in partnership with not only ourselves, the staff and the board, but more importantly with the residents and the neighbors and the school and the planning board and the planning department. All of that has to be brought together and get some sort of consensus of approval as to that phase 1 design, as well as the overall redevelopment approach. So the $1 million would, once that approval has been reached this time next year, would be able to fund doing what they call the construction documents phase for phase 1 of the construction. And that is basically the actual blueprints, the little big plans that you put out for bid to contractors and subcontractors and receive bids to actually do the project. So that's what this is for. And the other thing to draw to your attention is, you look at item number 8 on the first page, the overall cost of the project, is now looking like, this is phase 1 of the project, not the whole redevelopment, is $37,400,000. If you can, kind of catch your breath on that particular number, is huge. That's up from $30 million a year ago, and reflects the, very dramatically, rapidly escalating construction prices that we've been seeing for the last couple of years. So, every year that we delay this is going to be, a challenge. because construction costs, not just for us, but for everybody in the country, have been really skyrocketing in the last few years here. So we're going to have to raise more money, to actually do the project here. Which again, we have a preliminary strategy to do, and that's one of the other things that's going to be done in the next 12 months, nailed on that funding. So any comments or questions or thoughts? Yeah, Ed, go ahead.
Is the cost of adding a third story to the project, is that prohibitive because of the cost of adding elevators?
No, there will be elevators. All these buildings are likely to be at least 2-story buildings in the redevelopment, throughout. And all 2-story buildings will have elevators.
Okay. Is there any reason why we can't consider 3-story buildings?
There is no theoretical reason not to consider it. It is something that is not, Needham hasn't done before in this part of town. They've had in certain business districts, they've allowed 3 stories, but we've basically been otherwise pretty much 2-story town with a 35-foot height limit, which is the current zoning in this area where we're actually sitting right now for the meeting tonight. But we will be looking at, can we do 3 stories, if not throughout the Linden Chambers 8.4 acres, maybe in a portion of the property, over by the railroad tracks, near where the Tabor Street buildings are sort of run around along the tracks there. You could put a three stories in there and nobody would, really notice that it was 3 stories. Yeah. So that's going to be looked at by the, it's been looked at before conceptually in 2012 and 13. And at that time, it looked like we might be able to go from 152 units to somewhere around 225, 230 units, without, having an ugly, high-rise apartment building look to everything. That, something would really be very attractive and really fit into the neighborhood.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because of the flexibility that has developed because of the MBTA transportation zone required rezoning, that there seems to be a lot more flexibility regarding zoning in Needham at the moment, that perhaps it may be easier to get zoning for 3-story buildings. Just because of
you are absolutely right. Having sat in on those housing group, working group meetings, you're absolutely right. And because that requires, to meet those requirements, requires much more dense zoning than we now have in place.
Right.
Near the railroad stations, the MBTA stations.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions on these applications? Yes, go ahead, Eleanor.
I just have a couple minor typos. So on page 2 under number 10, where there are 2, where it's the paragraph that starts additionally.
Which application are we on?
Oh, sorry, the second one.
The Linden Chambers, go ahead.
So in the paragraph on that page that begins additionally, about 4 lines down, it talks about, and which must be turned into realty during CY 2023, but I think it's supposed to say reality.
Reality, okay, right.
And then a little further down in the first of the 2 bullet points, where the bullet point starting 890,000, to demonstrate town support to incentivize rather than incentivizes, I think.
Right.
Very good, Ellen.
But really, Eleanor, also, reading this, out of the blue, without, does it kind of capture the essence of what we're trying to do? And, if you were a CPC member that wasn't as closely involved as certainly, Natalie and Margaret and myself and Steve are in this effort here. Is there anything that's conceptually missing for the initial sort of management summary of what we're trying to do?
I get it. It seems good.
It's okay if there isn't, but it's really hard to try to squeeze everything into 100 words or less. Let's put it that way.
I mean, I guess on this application under those bullets, the 890,000 and the 110,000. I guess I'm not entirely sure the difference between the two. I mean, I understand that 110 is the remaining pre-development and construction financing cost, but I guess I'm not entirely sure what those two bullets specifically entail. But I don't know how specific the CPC gets on wanting to know exactly.
Well, they get very specific, and you try to set the table for them as best you can with the space constraints. Let me just take that, as a comment that's not clear. I'm looking at this now. I actually reread it myself just before the meeting. I think in bullet number 1 in particular, what's that all about? And the answer, just for you is, but it doesn't say it, is there are these matching programs the state has. So if the town puts up $1 million, then they'll match it 1-to-1 or 1.5-to-1, or even up to 2-to-1, depending on how much they like your project.
So I think on that, it would be better, like if the state actually has matching requirements, then I think it would be better to say, to meet matching requirements specified by the state, or to meet local share requirements, or whatever they're called.
Yep. They're known informally as skin in the game.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
And then with the second bullet, I think I guess, and so like with the 890,000, that in terms of those matching requirements, there's another piece of the budget that would show we're applying for this amount from the state, or these different amounts from the state, and this program has a 15% matching requirement, or that program has a 5% matching requirement. Is that, and then so this 890, not that you would be demonstrating it if there's space constraints, but in this application, but there is backup to show that that's where those numbers came from.
Sure. Okay, let me see what we can do.
Okay. And then with the 110, I don't know, is it enough just to say remaining costs, or, in remaining aside from what? There's the matching, but then is that 110? In the other application, it was this is what we calculated our eligible costs, eligible CPA costs. So I guess I just would want to know what are the, where'd that number come from?
That's great. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have a comment or thought? Otherwise, let's go ahead and bring this to a vote. Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we approve these two funding applications for submission to the CPC for CPA funding for fiscal year 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Penny. Was that Penny? Or yeah. And any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Eleanor Evans.
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
and Ed Scheidler.
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Penny Kirk
Penny
votes,
Kirk votes aye.
and Janice Bennett.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Reg Foster votes aye. Thank you very much. Wish us luck. Okay,
Luck.
I think that is it for agenda item F. So let's go ahead, to internal initiatives. Go back over here to you, Steve, here.
Yeah, under number one, it's really a placeholder at this point, but work will start to ramp up at 42 Captain Robert Cook, the old after-school program apartment, really quickly. I think, especially now that we're down to 3 vacants, it's going to be one of our priorities. Roofing at Cook's Bridge. Gary's done some work and has an estimate from not an estimate, a proposal from an architect. Unfortunately, I didn't put it in your packet tonight, so I'm going to take a swing at it. There's an architect, Andrew Ferrantionos, and this would be to design the roofing job at Cook's Bridge, Robert Cook Drive, and this is budgeted in our capital fund program under HUD. It's his estimate is his proposals for $34,534, but again, I didn't include the paperwork in your packet, so I don't want to. I would offer that I could put it in the packet for a special meeting that we are proposing for December 1st, so that you'll get to look at that. But we do need to get this moving. That money has a expiration date, obligation expiration of February 22nd, I believe. Yeah. February 22nd. So,
And how much is in that fund for the roofing?
roofing is 285,000.
And what was the 34,000, whatever? That was per unit or?
No, that's to spec out the job. And then we go
Oh,
out to bid for the actual work.
Okay,
So
now
you have-
would this project come in phases like other things have happened in phases? And phase 1 happens and phase 2 is phased out into outer space.
It would depend on the pricing, I think. I would hope to get that would do the whole job. But again, with construction prices right now, I can't promise that, but it would take a big bite out of it. That's for sure.
So I don't want
can
to,
comment.
I don't want to bother you about phases, Steve, but we had supposedly a phase 2 for kitchens and a phase 2 for siding. And neither of those phases were ever produced for the residents. So, you know, when you want to put out a phase for the roofing, I mean, it's.
I don't want to put out a phase for roofing. I think it was budgeted at a very reasonable amount at the time. It's just that the pricing in the last, 12 months, I can't promise that will be there. Gary, if you have anything you can offer.
So we don't want to do anything in phases, but we have 2 buildings that are actively leaking. So we need to go forward with this process. The estimate cost on this, we're hoping to get 4 to 5 buildings done. We are going to bid it out as the whole project, bid it out for like 4 or 5 buildings with alternates of building 6 in the office or building 5 and 6 in the office, depending on how the cost of the fees come back. Like Steve said, it's since COVID, prices, no pun intended, are through the roof. So it's out of our control. I mean, that, like I said, that money is budgeted. We'd rather do it in one big swoop, but if it comes close, me and Steve have talked about maybe we could move some money if we're close enough to get all of them done at the same time. We have the flexibility to take money from a different year if it's close and get the whole site done in one big swoop.
Sounds good.
But these fees are for schematic design, construction documents, bidding costs. But the only reason we want to get this done sooner is we want to try to get it up to bid before the end of the year so that we can have it under contract before our February due date. If we're not, then we lose the money. So that's kind of, we're going to move a little faster here. With the holidays coming up and Christmas time, we lose days and stuff. So he has to draw the whole plan. And we're gonna draw it out. So if we don't get everything done, we will have the drawings. Hopefully we can get the additional funds to do the rest of the building, so we won't have to draw it again. To have them draw half the property, we're only gonna, we won't save that much money, so it's better off that he designs the whole property in one big shot. And we bid it out that way.
So Gary, do you need to get a board approval for this thing that didn't make it into the board packet sooner rather than later?
Contract,
Yeah.
the budget is approved
Yeah,
under the
no, I
capital.
know about the
so
contract.
It's just the contract.
I mean, I don't think it sounds like we shouldn't be waiting until next.
That would be
board
appreciated,
meeting.
but I apologize for not getting it.
Yeah, so when is it, does it exist?
Yes,
I
Okay,
can
yeah.
email, I have access to it right now. I can email everybody the contract right
well,
now.
it's not on the agenda for tonight, so technically we can't approve it tonight, unfortunately. But reason I'm asking you while we've got everybody here with their calendars is we could do a quick special meeting Friday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week. We need 48 hours,
Mhm.
business hours to post the meeting. So let's see, Monday, we could do it Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning or something like that. If the board is willing to do a 5-minute, 10-minute special meeting Tuesday or Wednesday next week.
I'm good.
Right, let's go, in times past when this sort of things come up, we can, there's usually 2 times that kind of work for everybody, like first thing in the morning before, or, in the early evening. So we're looking at the 22nd or 23rd. Eleanor, I
Earlier.
hate to be putting you on the spot here, but you're the one with the most challenging work commute schedule and everything here.
Yeah. I mean, if I can participate by Zoom, I can actually do it during the day too. And if it's going to be a short meeting, I just think maybe not Wednesday evening, since that's the night before Thanksgiving. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
So we better shoot for Tuesday. Good point.
Tuesday morning's good.
So, how does Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. look to everybody for 15 minutes?
I guess, sorry, actually, can we say 9:30?
We can say 9:30, that's why it was, That
Aye.
works for everybody? Okay, Steve, so why don't we get that posted? Gary, you can get that emailed or, out to all of us. And we'll get that taken care of there.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I gotta say, we gotta get working on those roofs, before any more moss grows on them here, and definitely don't want to lose that money in February for sure. No question about it. So.
Thank you. The next item is the paving project, which is still, will be designed. We're still working with architect to try to determine what that will.
It says it's still out for procurement. How long does procurement take? It's been like since last summer.
Oh, give me 3 more people and I'll get it out real quick. It's the design will be out hopefully soon. This will be a springtime job. Obviously, you don't want to be paving at this time of year for such a big job. So we'll keep you in mind. That's why I keep it on the agenda, so we keep it in front of the board.
That's basically what I've told the residents when they've asked. I said it was on the 22 budget, so it's probably going to get early 23 installment. So
I have reached out to Allen and Major, which is doing a project for us across town, to have them come over and design this project too. They're the ones that did the ones at Seabeds. So as soon as they can get out here, we'll get a similar contract from them as we got from this Andrew Fennertino. And as soon as they can come out and look at it, they'll give us a price on their cost. I can put together their packet like I have here now, and we can put it on hopefully the next board meeting of their cost to do the design and schematics of the pavement project.
Linden Chambers camera issues. You saw that we had made a payment to them. Gary, do you have an update on?
So I reached out to them today, haven't heard back from them, still waiting on the new antennas. That's why we held back $20,000+. The money we've given them so far is just for the materials and stuff they've already supplied for us. So we owe them $20,000+ more, which we will not give them, plus their retainage until these antennas are installed.
And the Seabed's Way closed circuit system was still waiting for a HUD extension approval. We literally talked to HUD, Cheryl and myself, mostly Cheryl, but at least once a week on it. We're pushing them to get some action. It has to be approved by Washington, and they just haven't come through yet. Resident survey is, we have a good number of resident surveys, and we'll be compiling them in the next week or two. So we'll have results.
Steve, is there some sort of deadline for the survey?
Yeah, the deadline is passed for the residents to return it. I mean, if one came in tomorrow, we'd still take it, but we've got a good chunk in. I have one new business item.
Okay, well, I thought maybe in this status update here, Penny, did you have anything you wanted to add with respect to your interim grant activity report to the board?
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to do a little update. I've written an additional local grant and made a request for a children's concert event, a story time. It's called, a woman who teaches children how to write a book and publish it, and then a pottery person who's going to be teaching the children and helping them make an actual pot and glaze it and all of that. So that's a separate local cultural council grant that I have already submitted. There's money left over from the last one, and that is going to pay for a donation to the Needham High School singing group and string. We don't have the actual details yet, but the head of the music department is going to meet with me at Chambers some afternoon soon so he can get an idea of how many groups he could field for us, and that would be a separate event. And then I'm writing this large grant there where you're required to spend at least $2,500. So I'm doing a theme of a music around the world, and I have 3 different groups. In February, we're going to have a Harvard group, a cappella group. There are 12 in the group, 5 from 5 different countries and 7 from 7 different states. And we're going to have maps up so that they can point out to everybody where they're all from. And all the residents will point out where they are from. In April, we're going to do an Irish band, the Boston Rovers. And in May, we're going to have a mariachi band celebrating Cinco de Mayo. It's going to be on May 7th, which is a Sunday. So with that, plus the refreshments that we're allowed to factor in, I'm going to be asking for about $3,200. And that is due in December, but I'm going to finish it before the beginning of December. And the reason I want to do this updating is that in the past, Cheryl and everybody in the office has been absolutely wonderful about doing the advertising necessary. But this Massachusetts grant requires it be open to the general public. So what we'll have to do is access the Needham channel, have flyers made up, and have articles in the newsletter. Plus, we'll need some sort of decorations for these different themes. The February theme, of course, is going to be Valentine's Day. So I'm really going to need the backup from the office, and they've been wonderful in the past, so I'm counting on them. In order to accommodate the fact that the general public will be invited, we have to say that there will be a limit of the number of people who can attend, and people will have to let us know. So hopefully the residents will let us know right away. And I'm focusing on the residents, but if we get people from the town as well, that will add to it, I think. So that's the summary at the moment.
Any comments from anybody, questions? I noticed the light hour is getting late here, so I'm not encouraging them if they're not there.
I'll comment on Bravo Penny. She's so
Right.
good with the arts and the culturals for all of us.
Super. Okay, Steve, you had a new business item and I have another couple items here too.
One new business item, this is, every year we have to update our, utility allowance, for our section 8, and our public housing, but particularly for section 8. And we just got it today, the survey. In the past, we've used a private company to the tune of about $750 to $800. This year, we were able to partner with the Norwood Housing Authority. We'll pay them less than that, and they've given us a very comprehensive listing of towns. And what it does is sets the utility allowance for gas, oil, and electric, and by the type of building and by the number of bedrooms. So like a single family detached, a 2 or 3 family duplex, a row townhouse, high rise. And these are the changes don't come out till November, like in the gas pricing, what's going to happen and stuff. So there is quite a difference in over the last year. But we do need to vote to adopt this so that our section 8 department, Nate is on the line, can then plug those numbers in as they set rents for people's rents for January.
We don't have that information?
No, we just got it today. This is
Oh,
just got it today, and we'll.
So
find out
I'm
after
going to
that.
suggest procedurally, that, again, this is, a new agenda item that wasn't posted for this meeting, and that maybe we add this to the special meeting next Tuesday. So, because, you could clearly see that this is a item that could be of great interest to other tenants or the members of the public here, I guess is probably maybe section 8, our section 8 folks that we rarely hear from here, but
does it affect the families? The federal family program?
I think this
Yes,
is.
it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 2 agenda item meeting
Okay.
for next Wednesday at 9:30. Is that it?
That's it.
So I have 2 items here. One I forgot to do when I was on the PRI updates. We've been meeting awful, we meaning Cheryl and Steve and myself and the Cambridge team sort of taking the input that we had on the 2 repositioning options that we were considering at the October, 3rd meeting and so forth. The pros and cons, and they've been doing some more analysis. And we are now at the point where the board needs to choose which one of those 2 strategies, I guess is what we wound up calling them, that we go forward with. And I'm not going to get into what those 2 are tonight, because first, they're not on the agenda, and second, it's not a quick thing here. Based on which way we choose, then our Cambridge Housing Authority team can actually start writing the repositioning applications that will move our programs over to the Section 8 subsidy, which is going to generate several $1 million more per year of money and fund the seabeds and Cook redevelopment, not redevelopment, but preservation modernization for starters. So, so we are looking for a date and time when we can do that. And so we put our schedule together on Wednesday and came up with Thursday, the 1st of December, at our regular time of 7:30 or 7:15 if we want to start a few minutes early, but maybe 7:30. And we told Natalie and Margaret we would bring this forward to the board meeting tonight to see if you folks can accommodate that in your schedules. This meeting, I would anticipate, would be about an hour to 90 minutes long. There'll be materials that go out in advance that you've already seen. It'll be updated a little bit. There will be a slide presentation presenting the pros and cons of going along strategy number 1 versus strategy number 2. The main difference between the two of them, again, I don't think it's worth getting into tonight, but there isn't one absolutely 100% clear direction to go. We're going to have to, apply our best judgment to making the final decision. I'm also pressing the Cambridge Housing Authority to make a very concrete recommendation along the lines of, if we were you, this is what we would do, given their much greater knowledge of all the complexities, and they'll do that as much as possible. So how does Thursday the 1st look on calendars here?
Thursday, the what?
First, is that an evening?
At 7:30 in the evening for an hour to 90 minutes.
That works for me.
That works for me.
Doesn't work for them. Okay.
So
Works for me.
one quick question. So the meeting, for some reason, I wrote next week's meeting down for Tuesday, but it's Wednesday. Is that right?
No, it's Tuesday
Tuesday.
at
I missed-
9:30.
That's it. Okay, that's what I thought.
Tuesday at 9:30.
Right?
Ellen,
Steve?
Tuesday, 9:30.
Yeah, the 22nd.
Okay.
Okay, the last, and the next last piece of business, you'll see the dates for the December meeting. Our regular meeting would be the 3rd Thursday, which is the 15th. It has been the custom of the board, as we all know, to do another extra meeting in December to receive a presentation from Rick Shaw, if he's healthy enough this year, but from Rick or his associate, of our 2023 budget, state and federal budget, for our review and approval. So Steve and Cheryl can get that submitted on a timely basis to DHCD and HUD. However, we already have, now 2 extra meetings. And I was talking it over with Steve and thinking that maybe we would be comfortable doing that, making the major topic of our regular Thursday, December 15th meeting, that budget meeting, just not trying to schedule and during the holiday season yet another special meeting. But I thought I'd see what the will of the other board members are on this approach. What do you folks think?
Okay, so I think there's 2 meetings leading up to that. Yeah, that 3rd meeting, yeah, we could just make it a budget meeting and call it a month.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
And I'm thinking that our rest of our agenda that we normally spend more time on, like the monthly financial reports and everything else, we would just not spend that time. We'd just say, does anybody have any questions, and move right along, something like that. And just streamline it so we can spend the majority of our time on the 2023 budget, which is of course an important thing to do. Okay, I think we have consensus there. Steve, so.
It's just, is Thursday the first, will that be a hybrid or a virtual?
That will be a virtual meeting. Thank you for
Okay.
mentioning that. Okay, I think we're at the end of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So
I suppose.
I'll take Ed on that one.
Second,
And second from Janice. Hearing no further discussion. For the last time, we'll call the roll for the evening. Eleanor Evans,
Eleanor Evans votes aye.
Ed Scheidler,
Ed Scheidler votes aye.
Any for both sides?
Dennis Bennett,
both sides.
and Reg Foster votes aye. Thank you, everybody. Great meeting. Appreciate your time and all the effort you put into everything, and have a nice evening and.
Happy
we'll see you-
Thanksgiving.
Thank
Well,
you.
not yet. We'll see you next Tuesday.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
But that too.
Thank
Well,
you.
happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving anyway.
Bye.
So that's